Good morning, everyone. I'm in the kitchen again. I am canning today. I'm canning tomatoes, and I figured it would be perfect time to show you a video because it's tomato season. It's really a good thing for a beginner canner to get in. It's not complicated. All you need is a water bath. So I am going to walk you through my process today and encourage you to go get some tomatoes to can. I am going to show you everything that I have out and what I use to do everything. So on one eye I have a large aluminum pot, and I actually have 6 jars already in there. They have about 5 minutes left. I have a pot of boiling water, which I will show you in a minute what we'll use that for. I have my ice bath, which there is not really any ice in there. It melts very quick, but as long as it is still ice cold, no worries. We're just using that to stop the cooking process. I have a box that I'm going to put all of my peelings in and tomatoes with bad spots that I'm not going to use. This will be chicken feed later. And then I have a pan with aluminum foil for easy cleaning, with peeled tomatoes that will be ready to go in the can. So my water is boiling right now, and I've just washed my tomatoes. Going to just put them down into the water. And these will go for about 30 to 60 seconds, and you'll start to see the peel on the outside start to come away from the meat of the tomato. And when that happens, we will get those out of there and into the ice cold water. The tomatoes that are in the boiling water have just a few more seconds, and once I get those into the ice water, I'll show you how easy it is to peel them and get them ready for canning. Alright, so I've got all the tomatoes there, and I just have a paring knife, and I will show you. Water is still very cold. You can see that the peeling is just easily coming off of this tomato. So I'm simply going to peel it. Comes right off. Take the core out. And then take the little spot off of the bottom, and that tomato is ready to can. So I will continue doing this to all of these tomatoes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them in their own juice. I think that this is really a good thing for a beginner canner because it's really easy. The process is simple. I have just shown you what to do. The canning, we'll walk through that in a minute, and it is not complicated. You put the tomatoes in boiling water, 30 to 60 seconds, put them in an ice bath to stop the cooking, peel them, and you're ready to can them. So that is all that there is to it. So when we water bath, what we're doing is killing the botulism. And some people question, do you water bath, do you pressure can? And that depends on the acidity of what you are canning. So tomatoes, fruits like in jellies and jams, you don't have to pressure can those because they're very acidic. So all we have to do is water bath them, and they will get the botulism out, and you don't have to, unless you have a bad seal or something like that, which I'll go over with you later. These will be shelf stable for at least a year. If you have any questions as I'm going through this, please put them in the comments. I would be happy to help you. And when I can these tomatoes whole, some people do, they just can tomatoes, spaghetti sauce and things like that. But I choose to do it like this because it is simple, and I just pull them right out of the can and make the sauce when I'm ready, or I throw them in chili or whatever I need those tomatoes for. Or if you like tomato gravy, this is the best tomato gravy. Fresh tomatoes. You can make you some of that for supper while you're waiting, or while you're preserving these tomatoes. Okay, so now we are at the sink. I brought the huge pan of peeled tomatoes over here. I have my jars in hot soapy water. They're already clean. If you put them in the dishwasher when you're finished with them, you can sterilize them that way. I do that when they're done, and then I put them into the hot soapy water in the sink so they're ready to go. I have all of my rings out ready, and I have all of my lids out on a paper towel so they are ready to go. I have another paper towel for drying off my lids, and I also have one to wipe the rim of the jar off. So I'm going to show you how simple it is to can these. You also will need bottled lemon juice and salt. If you are doing a pint jar of tomatoes, you'll use half a teaspoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. If you're doing a quart like I am today, you're going to use a whole teaspoon of salt and 2 tablespoons of the lemon juice. Now, the Ball Canning book is where I go for all recipes, unless it is something like a grandmother's recipe or something like that. Everything in here is tested so you know that it is safe, and it'll be good for your family. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have hot water, as hot as I can stand to touch it, to rinse off my jars. Because this way it'll help keep some heat in those jars for when I'm canning and I set them into the canner. One thing I do want to mention really quick, I'll just pull this over here and show you guys. So this right here, you need this to set the jars on, because if you set it directly on the bottom of the pan, the jars are going to be too hot. You can also use the rings that you put around the jars, and you can set them like this all around the bottom. But I prefer to do it simple because that sits up out of the pan. You can set them on there while you're waiting to get the rest of them done and your water is coming to a boil, and then you can just set it down in there. Okay, so I have my rinse jar here, and I'm going to put 1 teaspoon in my quart jar, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and then all I'm going to do is just pack the tomatoes in there. And when you squish them down some, all of their juice will come out, so we're not going to put any water on them or anything like that. They will simply be in their own juice. Okay, so when they're really big, I just break them apart and set them in there. And when I break them apart, I can get more in the jar. Okay, as you can see, the juice is already starting to come in. For a quart jar, it's going to take anywhere from 3 to 4 tomatoes, depending on how big they are. We're going to leave about a 1/2 inch headspace. You can see I've just smashed it down, and the juice has come up over those tomatoes. So if you can see the top of the jar. Okay. You can see on the top of the jar where there are some little pieces of tomato. And what I'm going to do is just take my paper towel and wipe this rim off, because we do not want anything to hinder the seal on the jar. So just to wipe that off really well. Make sure that your canning lids are dry. Put that on top. Rings on, fingertip tight, no tighter, just fingertip tight. And then I'm going to set them here in the canner. Okay, so I have the last jar of tomatoes going in. My water is boiling. That's exactly what we want. And so with this little contraption here, all I have to do is lift up and set it down in the water. And that's too much water. Okay, so when I went to lower this down in the water, I heard something, and it was a jar busting. So this happens, no big deal. I'm just going to pull it out. And we mourn the loss of a jar. Okay. Bringing another one to not break. So I'm setting this down into the water. Okay. You want it at least you're about 1 inch above the jars, because obviously as it boils, the water's going to evaporate. So you want to make sure that there's enough water over it the entire time. So I'm going to turn this down to about medium heat now that it's boiling. I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to set the timer for 35 minutes. They need to boil for 35 minutes before we turn those off and put them on the towel. So my timer has gone off for the cans that I already have in the water bath canner. So I am simply going to turn the eye off and pull the lid off. So I will let these sit for about 5 minutes, and then I will pull them off and set them onto a towel on the counter. You're not going to put them directly on the counter, because that will shock the jars and it could cause them to bust. I am fixing to pull the jars out of the water bath, and this right here is a lifesaver, y'all. I tried to do it with tongs one time and it didn't work out very well. Should have had a video on that. But anyway, this is a great tool. You just stick it right in the water, pull your jars out, and it will not cause them to fall over or for you to burn your hand. So it just goes over the lid, just like this. Tomatoes are canned, and they are going onto the towel to sit. Like I said, you do not want to put these directly on the counter, because it will cause your jars to go into shock. And these will sit for 12 to 24 hours untouched, so that they can finish sealing I'm going to show you what they should look like when you're finished after the 12 to 24 hours. Here they are. These are finished. These sat. I made them a couple of weeks ago. And you notice that the rings are not on them. So you can actually pick, if they have sealed correctly, you can pick them up by the lid and they should not come off. If we leave a ring around them, what can happen is this seal can come apart, pop, and we not know it, and then that lid, or the ring, excuse me, will push this back down, and then you will not know that it has popped or how long it has popped. So after those 12 to 24 hours of sitting untouched, you'll just remove the bands and do like I did and lift at the lid and make sure that the seal is there. Write your date on the lid and you're ready to go. It's that easy. If you have any questions, again, just put them in the comments. I'll be happy to help you. Share this video if you enjoy it with somebody else who might want to get started in canning. This is a very easy process for a beginner, and you can just use them as you need them. You don't have to make spaghetti sauce or chunks of tomatoes, because when you cook them, they're going to cook down anyway, and you can mash them as you're making spaghetti sauce. You can leave them as big chunks of chili, big chunks in chili, or you can dice them up before you put them in there. Just chop them up really quick and easy peasy. There you go. I am canning a lot of tomatoes because I want to try to have what our family needs for an entire year. So 2 boxes, and we get our tomatoes from Jackson Farms. They are local here in Grand Ridge. They have awesome tomatoes. So you can, if you're in our area, you can run over there and grab some tomatoes from them. But if I'm using 2 boxes, that will give me 20 to 22 jars of tomatoes. So if I use 2 jars a week times 52 weeks, that's going to be 104 jars. It sounds like a lot, but I love doing it on my own, knowing where the tomatoes came from, and knowing the process that they go through, what touches them, what doesn't touch them, the simplicity of lemon juice and salt to help preserve them, and then I have canned tomatoes all year long for my family, for whatever we need those for. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.